The January transfer window is now shut, with a record £130 million spent by Premier League clubs over the past month. With me to talk about the signings made are Ivy Times sports editor Nick Howson and sport reporter Tony Mogan. Guys, we'll start off with the two big signings that kind of bookended the transfer window. We had Wilfried Bony, the Swansea striker, moving to Manchester City, and then right at the end we had Juan Cuadrado, the winger, moving from Fiorentina to Chelsea. Could these two major signings determine the outcome of the title race?
I mean, I guess we still have to wait for Wilfried Bony to come back from the African Cup of Nations to know what sort of impact he is able to have. Could only play, I think, 13 matches if Ivory Coast go all the way, in the Premier League that is. So his impact could well be limited to a handful of matches. As for Juan Cuadrado, you would think already that Chelsea have probably got enough to win the league without him. However, he will, a little bit like one or two of the players they bought in the summer, he will add the garnish to what is an inevitable title win. A very exciting signing, probably a bit of a late bloomer in terms of really the World Cup was the first time we really got a good glance at him on a sort of a global level. A very exciting signing certainly, and with Bony you know what you get. You're going to get goals. It's not particularly exciting to watch in the sense that he's not like an Aguero. He's going to be a great foil for one or two of those sort of those City attackers. So two very solid signings and a good sort of additions to what is as you say, a title race that could go down to the wire. You never know.
Yeah, both clubs knew what they wanted from the start. I know Cuadrado's deal did go down to final day, but in the past 2 weeks since that interest came out, it was the sense that once Chelsea got their financial fair play requirements to get the deal over the line in place, it was going to happen. Mourinho wanted him in at the expense of someone else, and it was easy as that for the club, straightforward as that. Similar with Bony, the club needed a Premier League presence up front, who's proven to fill in and assist Aguero in getting them up to that title challenge. Both deals are relatively safe. The club knew what they wanted. They weren't completely spur of the moment deals. A lot of work went into them, so I think both managers will be happy with how they came off.
But other than those two big deals, it was pretty quiet, the rest of the Premier League sides, especially near the bottom where you'd normally expect the relegation strugglers to indulge in some panic buys. Why was this?
It was almost consistently throughout the division as well. And in some ways that did dilute the excitement on deadline day and almost throughout the entire window. So I think firstly, a lot of clubs, and just use Chelsea as the example, I know they're under pressure to spend and improve their squad every single transfer window, but use them as the model. They're very, very concerned about FFP. And I think that's going down the division now. The Premier League got their own, we haven't quite seen the teeth of their financial fair play regulations, but still I think a lot of clubs are conscious of it. And I think the second reason is a far more simple one. I don't think many teams are doing that badly this season. You know, the teams at the bottom are anything but cut adrift. There's a large handful of sides who will still feel that they've got a very good chance, who are going into the final third of the season in excellent form and could definitely qualify for Europe and finish maybe even in the top four and beyond. It is very hard to find teams that are really properly, genuinely underachieving. Maybe Aston Villa, for example, but are they that far? I mean, they're not scoring goals and they're not that far away from where you'd consider they'd probably finish. The promoted clubs, they're struggling as a lot of people expected. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. Teams are quite happy with what they've got and they feel that, just a couple of points here or there is going to be the difference.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers have adopted a sort of take it or leave it approach. They'll enter the window thinking, I have these players available if something becomes available, not looking too far into specific targets. If a deal becomes available that they weren't planning on, then their interest might increase. If not, they know the players they've got. They have this mindset they went into the month with of knowing these are the players I've got. Anything else is a bonus. That bonus doesn't always come, as we saw last night. So if that doesn't happen, then they're prepared. It's no huge loss if they don't sign a player. Because they're aware of the demands of the January window now. Deals aren't that likely to happen as they would in the summer. The money at stake, players with club obligations, it just doesn't happen, and managers are aware of that and they're prepared for what happens and what doesn't happen, as last night saw.
So who did the best business then? What for you was the signing of the transfer window?
I think the best deal actually was Sunderland getting rid of Jose Altidore without having to call in the National Guard, because arguably the worst player in the Premier League, or was arguably the worst player in the Premier League. The fact that they were able to offload him back to the MLS, and they got Jermaine Defoe as sort of a nice little surprise present, was an outstanding bit of business. I think for maybe the last 2 years or so, under the structure at Sunderland, under Di Canio and Poyet, their transfer business has been pretty poor. And Altidore was obviously part of that, was probably the headline signing. But getting rid of him really was, for how they did it, an inspired bit of work. But at the same time, that probably says a lot about the window. I'm talking about a player that will no longer be playing in the league, and it was a sale. So, yeah, good business from Sunderland, I think.
Yeah, another sort of extension of that, if you look at the two players I'm about to mention, you wouldn't say they're like the highlights of a glamorous window of spending. I think Alan Pardew's done some very neat and tidy business at Palace. The honeymoon period might be fading a bit given the loss at Everton, but he's been given free rein to bring in the players he wants, and in recruiting hard-working forwards who, let's say, might not be the most potent goal scorers in Yaya Sanogo and even Shola Amiobi, he knows exactly what he wants out of them, and he knows exactly what he'll get. He needs hard-working forwards for his system. Not going to score loads of goals, but they'll supplement the wide players. They've got Jason Puncheon, Wilfried Zaha, Yannick Bolasie, who will contribute goals. So he knows what he's doing, and he's been given the backing to go and pursue what he wanted. Again, the names aren't glamorous. They're not high-profile. They're not pretty. But if he wants them and he's got them, then he knows what he's doing.
Well, to follow all our football coverage, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk/sport.